Welcome to the Transform Sales Podcast, where forward-thinking business leaders come to share their experiences and ideas, learn from each other, and amplify their results together.
How's it going, everybody? In this episode, we're going to be reviewing a service provider that I actually met on SaaS Talk not too long ago. This is an event that took place in Austin. And we're going to be speaking with Lucas Muniz, CEO of Sales Network. Lucas, how you doing today?
Doing great, Eddie. Thank you for your time. And how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, Lucas. It's great to have you on the show. And I want to talk about this awesome banner that we have on the screen, how to unlock or pretty much triple your sales growth with Intel-led sales strategy, content, and outsource SDR execution. Lucas, tell us a little bit about this. What is Sales Network?
Yeah, Sales Network was born, let's say this way, 2 years ago when we came up with the idea of connecting different sales professionals across the globe and with a vision of bringing expertise from one industry to another, basically identifying any patterns that could help either generate more sales or more partnerships. And what we ended up doing and going towards the direction was to a consultative approach for companies who want to grow their sales. So basically, we help them with anything that can help them sell more.
Fantastic. Now, the clients that you work with, tell us a little bit about their situation and how were they doing things? What was the status quo for them before they met you and started growing sales efficiently?
It varies a lot because it depends on the company size and funding, and but we focus on B2B businesses. And when they come to us, sometimes they're just tiny startups that they don't have any sales process at all. And we help them since the baby steps all the way to companies that they have entire sales teams and sales engine running. And so in terms of alternatives, I would say since no alternative at all, and they want to start, with the right foot, and all the way to the alternative, let's say they have their own sales team, but something is not working or the results are not, as great as expected, even though the product is great. And some companies actually tried similar services, which, let's say, outsourcing of SDRs is just part of what we offer. And sometimes it didn't go as well because they were not involved in the strategy, the consultation side of things. So our approach is a little different because we want to be involved with the whole sales cycle. And even though we can, provide execution for the beginning of the sales cycle, or we can provide other services related to the late stages of the sales cycle, such as partial, account executives or something. We always come from the holistic perspective. We want to see everything that happens during the entire sales process and the lead, let's say, journey, the buyer journey, the lead journey, and bring different perspectives to it.
Interesting. So based on what you just said, if I go into the next question here, which is about the challenges that those customers were running into, you could pretty much argue that any issue, any challenge that, let's say, it's affecting the velocity of sales deals in a sales process is something that you guys can diagnose, provide a recommendation for, and either give guidance or even provide the resources to execute such solution. Is that correct? Are there any other challenges that you would say fit into this category of what you typically solve?
That sentence you said was very accurate and concise, by the way. But to give, a broader picture, I would say the challenges, they vary as well, as I was talking about different sort of companies, different stages. Let's say in the scenario of startups that they don't have a sales process. So the challenge is, how can I start selling even before getting a huge round of investment if I want to have my sales team? So how do I do that with very low budget? Or how do I do it without wasting money? So one of the biggest challenges when it comes to the small startups, one of them is budget, to have their own, sales team, that they don't have that budget. And another challenge is how they ensure that they will do something that they're not going to waste money, and that's scalable. So scalability is also one of the greatest challenges when you start with very little money. And then when it comes to mid-market, like enterprise level companies, the challenges can be very diverse. And by that, I mean, they could have challenges that they don't even specifically know, and they frame a certain way. Let's say, okay, we have a plateau in the sales team right now. We hired more people. Investing more money, and the sales are not growing. So can we identify what the gaps are? So basically, the challenge sometimes is not knowing why the sales stagnated or why it's not going up. So then, so those are some examples of the challenges, but all fall through, like, it falls on what you said. So all the companies, they want to sell more, and they either don't know how to do it, or they want to find what's going on if they're not doing it.
Right. Now, this it sounds like you guys, Sales Network.io, are the sales doctors that people go to whenever they have some sort of pain in the sales department. If that's the case, I'm imagining that you run through some sort of diagnosis, let's say a conversation or sessions, where you identify how they're pretty much, I want to tie this back to what you said earlier, the buyer's journey. What is the buyer's journey that you guys are executing? What is the process that you currently have to support that buyer's journey? So that takes me to my next point, which is, why don't you highlight some of how your service works, and maybe how do you do that diagnosis, if there's a typical process that you run through in order to identify where there can be some pain, some aches, in order to start providing a recommendation, or at least drafting a proposal of what that company should focus on, or what your service is going to do for that company.
Cool. Can I share my screen real quick?
Absolutely, I see it.
Cool. Yeah, so basically, even though you're going to see some very general expressions there, but we can't run away from them. So that's what we call sales acceleration journey. It could be sales beginning journey. We could use that with if the company has no sales at all, but I call acceleration because no matter what stage you are, you're going to definitely accelerate the sales if you take care of it. So the way that we work with our clients, with our customers, it's number one, define clear objectives. I know it sounds so general, but you got to know what you're going for, because sometimes the company just want to find, the first customers to validate, their idea that it could work, that people would pay for that. And that's a different strategy than someone who works. Yeah. It could be, the company has a great footprint in South America, and they want to, get into the United States market and basically get new customers in the United States and Canada. That's a completely different approach of doing things. Or they're already selling and they want to find channel partners. So first, number one, of course, define what is the clear objectives, short-term, long-term. And then number two, it's of course understanding your target audience. And that is a crucial step on the strategy, the sales strategy portion of things. Because sometimes the companies, they think that they know who the buyers are, but are they sure? Are you actually diving deep into, let's say if your company is a software, a big business-to-business business model software, and how do you know who actually makes a difference in the decision-making process? You got to find out every person, even in different departments, that can get affected or can benefit from your capabilities and features. And this way you can tie, all those results that your product can deliver to those professionals' KPIs. And because only this way you're gonna find out more pain points that your product can solve for. So you got to basically reverse engineer the decision-making process. And then you go to pain points, and how they're going to approach each one of those personas, let's say this way, right? Your ideal customer profile. So you got to find who are the ones who care about what you're selling and who are the champions, because sometimes they go for the decision makers, but the people who feel the pain the most, sometimes they're not the decision makers, but they are the ones who are going to make the decision makers sign the deal with you. And then we map the buyer's journey. After diving really deep into what matters to them and who are they, how is their experience? And by buyer's journey, I mean any lead, let's say this way, because it matters. Their experience once that they start talking with you in your company is actually everything comes from that perspective. The company, your product, whoever is offering a product, your product doesn't exist to basically solve for one thing or another. You are solving other people's problems. So you got to care for those other people and how are they perceiving your product. So, and also the experience that they have with your company. So once the lead comes in, the person is interested or clicked on something or came through inbound or came to your website, how are you treating this lead? What questions are you asking? Are you only basically qualifying the lead, or are you asking questions that show the value, like build value for your product? What about the intel? What's important for you to know so you ensure that you have the highest probability of winning this deal? So you got to know what questions to ask, but also you got to basically provide the best experience possible. So map this journey. So this way you understand the sales cycle. You understand how it goes from the discovery call to a demo, or if in your case, it would be better to offer like a free trial of your product. So understanding the journey, and for you to understand the journey, you got to first understand your target audience. So then after, mapping what would look like a great journey for your lead, you got to identify the sales process stages. So this way that comes to, okay, now we know what a typical sales cycle look like. So let's make it scalable. Who's going to talk to them? Like what questions? Who is going to show a demo? Is that the same person or not? Basically how internally you're going to take care of that journey. Then define activities and tasks.
Yeah, like each of the touch point.
Exactly. This way.
Sorry to interrupt. It sounds like you. But I just wanted to add, like, by understanding who the buyer is and by understanding at what points throughout their journey they communicate with your brand, you map out what's the process that everyone that's going to be supporting that buyer should be carrying on, who that is, who's the owner of each of those things, so that nobody falls through the cracks. Pretty much, it sounds like you're building an airtight process every time you go through these steps. We're right now at step 4, correct?
Exactly. So this way, if you define clearly who is doing what, that's the way that you can define the activities and go even to the step number 6, which is, okay, like who is doing what and how can we measure if that's being done correctly, if that's being done good, if that's being done in the way that provides the best experience to the lead, and consequently giving you the biggest chances of winning that deal. So this way you also make it scalable. So defining those indicators and KPIs, you make it scalable, because if you have one salesperson and things go well and you hire 5 more, how is the process going to be? You cannot be with no let's say no KPIs, not knowing who's doing, better than the other one, because we always going to learn what works best or not. So you need KPIs for that. This way,
Right.
You also start identifying, like if you start tracking what you're doing, because everything that can be tracked can be made better. Then we start also realizing what tools do you actually need, and that's very important, because depending on the budget, you can have some better tools or not, but like we got to make it work in a way that your sales engine is running smoothly. So first you build a sales foundation, like with clear objectives, understanding, like having this strategy figured out, and the processes basically streamlined, and integrating the tools it's a very important piece of this puzzle, because it also makes a difference in streamlining all those processes. And this way, of course, with A/B testing, and you can incorporate sales methodologies with everything that you observed from what you already done sales wise, or if it's done as a package, let's say the sales acceleration journey, as we do to some companies, then we start with something that theoretically feels like it looks like it's going to work. And then we, of course, document, communicate the process, and do the A/B testing, test, iterate, and optimize, because that's the only way that you can make adjustments and that you can continue to improve your sales, improve your growth. And this sales acceleration journey doesn't end. It's not just something that it's done once, because every single time that the company has to adapt for whatever changes are happening, that like with technology, the changes are so fast right now. Every day. And you got to sometimes either reinvent your own product because something came up for free that used to be your core business, or expand. Maybe you see other opportunities that you can have more revenue from. So this is a constant, let's say, a constant cycle, in a sense that you can always be using those strategies, and not specifically how I said, only like with step 1, 2, and 3. Sometimes you are mixing up, in the sense that whatever is the priority, it's going to become the next step. So I brought this image just from the perspective of the company who is starting with us for the first time, using our services and consulting with us for the first time. We've got to figure those things out. So once that we figure those things out, if the company wants to continue with us or do consultations once in a while and recycle their knowledge, or see, have another, let's say, diagnostic and fill up the gaps that they have, it's the same approach. And sometimes some parts of the sales engine is running smoothly, but, tiny parts are not. And our main goal is fill all the cracks that the deals are falling through. And of course, the execution of it as well, that we help companies with everything, the execution from the top of the funnel and providing those leads, all the way to evaluating the process strategy and helping them winning those deals.
Fantastic. That takes me to the next point, Lucas. That was a very good high-level overview of how, again, it's not just bottom of the funnel intervention, could be middle, could be top of the funnel intervention, closing deals, or just generating the leads. But something that you mentioned that I want to double click on was also, this is not just a process mapping. Like at the end of this service, you don't just get, hey, this is a guideline, this is a document, there's a PDF of how you should run things, but you also get recommendations on technology. There was, if I bring it back real quick, step number 7 speaks about integrations, tools, make sure that everything is optimized. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that a little bit more. So when it comes to tasks, deliverables, licenses, people, walk me through what is typically the resources involved in delivering this service and helping your clients reach full productivity.
Absolutely. So each project it's very different from each other, of course. And depending on the complexity of the project, on the complexity of the product or service that's being that they want us to help them selling, that's what dictates basically how many people are going to work in this project. So it could be something as simple as one person of our team, helping with the outbound effort as an example, or a project that involves, deep researching and understanding the buyer journey and any cracks that we can fill. When I talked about, the connections between your capabilities and features to the KPIs and how that affects, each, let's say, champion for the decision-making process. So that varies a lot. But for more complex projects, we designated a project manager that's going to look and make calculations. Okay, if you want to have those deliverables, you're going to need to do some consultations with a specific consulting service for that, or we could be hire salespeople. Like, we're going to need this amount of salespeople if you want to reach those goals, or it can be completely the opposite. Okay, we have this budget. What can you guys do for us? So, and to give kind of like an example, a clear picture of how that happens, because as I said, sometimes the companies, they think they know what they do, and they actually don't know much what they actually need. And so I'm going to tell a quick story about this customer last year that they came to us like, hey, Lucas, we need leads. Our leads, we don't have enough leads, and the leads are extremely low quality. So we're not, marketing's not doing a great job, and we need you guys to help us with that. And we came like, okay, seems like one of those cases that the companies, they know already what they want, know what they need. Okay, let's provide the outsourcing team. So I started, helping a couple of SDRs, and let's understand the product. And then I started realizing, okay, but why are those leads not being converted? And I started asking like, hey, how did it go? The negotiation part of it, basically like poking them to know a little better what's going on the late stages of the sales cycle. And then I started realizing, wow, those leads that marketing is providing, not us, those leads are great quality. They're coming from, demo requests, which usually they have like a high conversion rate because people already basically
probability,
with it. Probability, it's really high. They already checked your pricing and compared, your tool with other ones. So I started realizing like, hey, can you guys open yourselves a little more for me to help you with check if those leads are actually low quality? And then I started realizing how many gaps, how many cracks the deals were falling through. And then that's, to answer your question, okay, you know what? If you guys are down, we can do, the diagnostic that I proposed, and let's do this. Okay, so basically, one person was designated to identify the gaps when it comes to the system. Okay, so like the CRM, how is that journey going? So one person was focused on, okay, what's the miscommunication? What part of all those deals is not being well tracked? So this way they are not having a good follow-up. And then I was involved in this project, focused on the strategy side of things. Like, okay, why not so many calls are converted, like let's say going from discovery call to the demo, and why even less calls are converted from demo to negotiation. So I dive deep into the strategy side of things. So just two people in this case were able to basically measure everything that was going on, and they didn't even know. So okay, let's go back and let's find out what was the conversion rate before we jumped in, because everything that can be measured can be better. So okay, so now we identified improved. Thank you. Now we identified, okay, if there's a problem here, let's focus here. What's the problem on the discovery call? Okay, let's dive deep into it. Like, what questions are being asked, what questions are not. So then we started, measuring everything that could give us a clue of what we have to get better. And at the end, what happened was we provided, we more than doubled the amount of leads that they're getting, and we more than tripled the conversion rate, which is the most important. Because can you imagine how marketing was feeling? Providing great leads and making people, come and request demos, and they're converting, way less than 10%. So marketing was pretty happy about that as well. So basically, this is the way we set up. Okay, like let's see what's necessary. So also the budget that you have. So we can come from both perspectives. From the perspective of, we're gonna tell you what we need and present you a price. So this way, like, okay, if I want to get this done, this is what sales network is going to ask from us. So this way we know that we're going to achieve exactly what we want. Or we can do the opposite way as well. Like, they come with a budget. Okay, so within the budget, I'm going to tell you, like, hey, we can involve this person, or this person. And this way we can know at least the length of time that we're going to take to achieve those objectives, because the budget, in time, they're kind of tied up in this one. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. I can see how, based on the situation, based on the scenario, there are different solutions, tasks that could be deployed given, again, their specific needs. You mentioned how one company hired you primarily to do lead generation and appointment setting, and by delivering that work, you identified, hey, you already have a lot of good leads. You probably don't need me as much to generate leads. You probably need me more in helping you close the leads that you already generated, and how that made an impact, as you said. Not only, yes, more leads were generated, but if you hadn't gone up, or in this case, further down the funnel to fix the conversion, all of your leads would have probably been neglected, not acted upon. And probably the impression of that client would have been, yeah, this didn't work either. But the root cause was the conversion, which you also identified and fixed. Now, in that case, I guess this is also going to be a wide answer, but what are the KPIs that most of your customers have used to evaluate the success of bringing salesnetwork.io into their processes?
Yeah, pretty simple. One is the new leads generated. If you involved us, let's say, if they wanted us to be the tip of the spear, if we provided SDRs, so basically how many new extra leads, how many of those discovery calls actually happened. So this is one way, one of the KPIs. Another one is basically the KPIs from each stage. Because if it's just like the amount of leads and the win rate, there are a lot of KPIs left in the middle that I do believe that each one of them is very important to identify the gaps and to make it better. So as I mentioned in the previous example, okay, how many calls are being, coming from the discovery call going to the demos? How many calls from the demos are, going to the next stage, whatever it is? Sometimes it's a proof of concept. Sometimes the technology company, the product can be a little more personalized. So they have this, technical evaluation scenario, and or providing a demo instance, let's say this way, for them to access. So whatever stages, if the company is counting on us to help with the whole entire sales cycle, it's easy to define KPIs for each step of the sales cycle. But I would say, those are the major ones.
Amazing.
It's basically going for each one. And sometimes, as I said, if they hire us for the top of the funnels, if they hire us to provide leads, that's easy. That's basically how many leads got in, how many leads went to the next stage, or how many leads got qualified. And if they hired us for the entire sales cycle, then everything got to be evaluated. It's also, we want to take credit if we made everything better on the sales cycle, and at the very end, the pricing was not the best, or or whoever is, let's say, trying to close the deal didn't do an amazing job. So we want to keep everything transparent. So this way, you know that whatever we are helping them, it's working.
Awesome. One of the main themes I've been picking up, Lucas, throughout the whole episode is flexibility. You, as long as they're a B2B firm that wants to grow revenue, your team, to use a different analogy than the one I used before about the doctor, your team are like the car mechanics that they bring the car to whenever there's a check engine light or maybe another light in the dashboard. Hey, you guys are the ones that are going to go in, check what's going on. If it's just the issue with that light, or if there's something else that may be indicating that the car is not going to run smoothly, you guys tweak that out so they can go back, jump on the highway, go fast, continue to grow, and knock it out of the park, right?
That's a great analogy. Yes, absolutely. So I think both analogies work. Let's say the diagnostic is when not so many people are involved. So this way, in the small projects that I'm involved, just myself or something like that. And from the mechanic, the car mechanic perspective, yes, if it's a team, like you take care of that part, someone else takes care of that part, but we are all in synchronicity. We're all synced. And yeah, it's a team effort.
Fantastic. Well, there you have it, people. If you are wondering what Sales Network can do for you, head over to the CloudTask Marketplace and you'll be able to find their listing over there, salesnetwork.io. Lucas, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show, and hopefully you can find another service, more offers from you guys in the CloudTask Marketplace pretty soon.
Thank you, Eddie. Thank you. I'll be there. And yes, thanks for having me.
Awesome. I'll catch you in a future episode. Bye-bye.